Yo, it's me, CSTOTT, baby, and I'm back with my review of the 2000 film Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, starring Jeffrey Donovan. Kim director, and is directed by Joe Berlinger. Okay. She's the witch, man! I like this movie. Now, I did watch the Good Bad Flicks video on this. Those of you who want to know everything about, production with this, go watch it. It's Good Bad Flicks on YouTube. Blair Witch 2. Apparently, when they were making this, of course they wanted to bounce off the success of the first film. But what the original director wanted to do was make a film that told a story of mass hysteria, and that's even the name of the book that Steven and Tristan are working on. Blair Witch History or Hysteria. So, they wanted this to be possibly it was all in their heads, but of course, studio interference. They had the director had this all planned out. The original intro to this was to play the song Witchcraft by Frank Sinatra. Because he wanted to start out lighthearted and then gradually turn into this dark horror film. But the studio was like, nah, fuck that. We're going to make this a dark horror film right away. Let's throw in some Marilyn Manson. Which, it's a good song. I'm not really a fan of Marilyn Manson, but every time I hear this when the movie starts, I like that. But having seen the version where they take the intro, Good Bad Flicks did this. They put Witchcraft over the beginning of that, and I'm like, it kind of works. And that's what they were going with the tone. They were going for with the tone was originally it was going to start out lighthearted, and then it was going to end up very dark. And the studio interfered, and not only doing that, they decided they were going to reshoot stuff to make it look as if Jeff, played by Jeffrey Donovan, was a bad guy. They put him in a mental institution. They showed footage of how he was in a mental institution and everything, and what they would have experiments done to him or something to make him look like he was a bad person, even though, other than Kim saying they never should have let you out, it's never really brought up again. We see flashes of it, but that's another thing, is that this film constantly flashes to stuff added in and edited through the film. We see shots of what is clearly our main characters killing other characters. There's this two group that enters in about maybe 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes into the film, called the Blair Witch Tour, which is like a rival group, and they make claims that they saw something up at Coffin Rock, so that leads them there. And then we find out later in the film that they were murdered by our main characters. Which I think that was added. I don't know about the tour group being a part of it, but just saying that they're missing would have been enough to be like, oh, because it's Blair Witch. You don't need to say that our main characters killed them. It's mentioned when Craven calls Jeff and says, Jeffrey, we've been looking for missing tourists. And that's how they know the tourists are missing. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that these people have to kill them. You could actually build on the believability that there is something going on in this, messing with people. And that they say, we brought it back with us when they left Burkittsville and they went to Jericho Mills. They brought it with them. It attached itself to them. Now, in the context of the other films where they get lost after spending the night there, it doesn't really make any sense. And then again, this is supposed to be a straightforward, psychological thriller. Psychological horror. What it was supposed to be. And the studio messed with it and made it just a murder spree with influences of the Blair Witch. And while I do like the film, I do kind of want to see the director's cut of this film. It would probably flow a lot better. Because watching the ending to this, I said the only thing I really liked other than in the first one, other than I kicked that fucker into the river, was the ending. Here, the ending, when I first saw it, was like, what? And I had one thought, so we'll get to the ending in a little bit. I had one thought, but now, watching it again, I think it's very obvious what they were going for. The studio was going for here. So, like, I can't help but think that this ending was supposed to be the studio ending. I can't picture an ending by the director where it would be implied our characters are, like, saying that Tristan was taken over by the Blair Witch. That was telegraphed from the beginning. After the night they get drunk and stuff, she wakes up. She has a dream about killing a baby, and then she wakes up. She has a miscarriage. They even mentioned the Blair Witch kills kids. And then in the videotapes, when they see them, it's Tristan acting like the Blair Witch. And the next day she has a miscarriage? Come on. It's being possessed by the Blair Witch that kills the baby. It's an unholy possession. Kills the kid. There's a lot of things pointing to the stuff actually happening and not being in their heads like we're shown in the final ending of this. Like the fact that there's a guy working on the little refrigerator machine at the liquor store or whatever. And he's there and he looks at Kim and says, "I'm finished now." And she goes to pay for her liquor, which Peggy, the bitch at the counter, won't let her pay for some reason. We don't know why. She just won't do it. And so she has to force her way to do it. She has to take the alcohol, put it in the paper bag. She throws the money at her and she leaves. She does grab her throat, but we don't actually see her kill her. And that could have been it. You know, we see her walk away, and as she walks away, the guy's no longer there. And according to Good Bad Flicks, and seeing the footage from the original film and this actor they got, I'm convinced it was supposed to be Rustin Parr. Even says the line, "I'm finished now," which is what Rustin Parr said. That was Rustin Parr. There's something going on in this town they don't want to admit. I even have a theory that Cravens himself, the sheriff, is a manifestation of the Blair Witch or Rustin Parr. One, the actor looks like what could be an older Rustin Parr with a ponytail. Two, he's only seen, really. Like okay, so the only two main characters he talks to are Kim and Jeff. Jeff has been in a mental institution, lost his mind. Kim is a psychic. She sees things no one else can. That makes sense. Like, those are the only two that he interacts with. You know? And, you know, yes, they see Cravens on TV eventually. But that's after the Blair Witch is starting to take over and corrupt. It's just a theory, but that's my theory, is that Cravens is a manifestation as well. As even the news reports only say the sheriff. It doesn't say Sheriff Cravens, it says the sheriff. Just think about it. Someone that Jeff has had a rough past with, and with Kim's psychic link, she could have, she knows Jeff's been in a mental institution. Her psychic link mixed with the Blair Witch could have connected them to the point where they see things. You know? That kind of makes sense. The whole Peggy thing and her getting murdered, they added the murder stuff in it. The studio did it. And in looking back at this, it doesn't really make any sense to have the murder stuff. It take that out, probably could have been a better narrative where it was all in their heads and stuff. And I think it should have ended with, because here's the confusing part. And I think, because, okay, this whole thing with Tristan, after it's revealed that she was under control of Blair Witch in the footage they shot, she's hung. She hangs there, she spins, and here it's intercut with showing them murdering the tour group. This is where they see that they murdered the tour group. Okay. So, and there's like a long shot of them staring at Tristan intercut with this. I think this is supposed to be them coming to the realization that something is really going on here. Like, you see Steven go like this, like, I just pushed my wife, I just hung my wife. Like, what's going on? Like, this is really them snapping out of it. And I think this is where the movie was originally intended to end. Because then after this, we cut to the news report talking about them committing the crimes. How did the cops find out? They live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. I know that Cravens was talking to Jeff, but then again, Cravens may not even exist. Because when Cravens calls Jeff and says, I'm right outside your door, boy. And when he goes outside the door, he sees him on the film, but when he opens the door, he's not there. I think Cravens is a manifestation. Now, how the cops find out, I don't fucking know. To me, it just seems like they tacked on the ending, and said, well, we'll just have the cops find them, not explaining how they found them and how they came to the conclusion they committed the murders. Yes, there's 2 dead bodies. Spoiler alert, Erica dies. But when I first watched this, I remember saying, oh, so Erica's the Blair Witch. Or it's Erica's fault. And if you think about it, it is Erica's fault. She cast a little Wicca spell to commune with the Blair Witch. Shortly after that, shit goes down. They black out. They wake up. All the stuff's been torn. Yeah. It's Erica's fault. She summoned the Blair Witch. And she was the first to die. So, you summoned me, now you die, bitch. And this is a minor complaint. But why is it when you have horror films and you get naked women, Halloween 4 is a great reference for this. So, when you get naked women, is there some rule it has to be only small-breasted women are allowed to be naked? And then you have the big-breasted women like Kelly Meeker and even Kim in this movie just going around in their bra. Because it doesn't make any fucking sense, especially in this film. Alright? Where everyone's supposed to be fucking naked in the footage that they show, right? But Kim's in her bra. And the only time they show her naked is from behind. I get maybe she didn't want to be naked. Well, then that's where you hire a body double and only shoot from here. I mean, come on. I'm just saying, I'm a fan of nudity in films, so, I'm not against seeing a nice pair of boobies. I'm just saying. I'm a pervert, I know, smack me upside the head, kick me in the ass. But anyway, it just, there's scenes that don't make sense. Like, when there's a random scene where Steven and Erica just make out, and then she slashes his stomach, and it's bleeding and stuff, and then it just cuts, and there's nothing. They're not ripped up, nothing. They're on opposite sides of the table. It's just like, what? No, I could see that was in the original cut. That could be contributing to the hysteria and stuff. Now, this original cut, I I'd love to see. But I have to state this. The ending has to be Tristan is behind it. She was possessed by the Blair Witch. It cannot be it's all in their heads. Because that's not what the Blair Witch is about. Now, I know I had my theory about how Josh and so maybe they had the same theories that, oh well, they took Heather out there to kill her. Let's just have them do sort of the same thing. Okay, if you were thinking that, fine. But if the Blair Witch concept is that there's something out there controlling things to the point that you cannot do anything about it. Not, it was all in their heads, it was supposed to be a psychological horror film about stuff going on, but as long as it was proved in the end that it was possessed. Because, think about it. Think about this, because it makes a lot of sense. Erica summoned the Blair Witch. Who was right next to her when she summoned the Blair Witch? Tristan. So it makes sense that the Blair Witch... See, think of this. She summoned the Blair Witch with Tristan right next to her. Tristan is now her vessel. Watch any episode of Supernatural Possession. You'll know that's how it fucking works. You bring a vessel with you. The demon takes over the vessel. Or it takes you over. In this case, it chose Tristan and killed her. And yes, and this was my first thought when I first watched it. The Blair Witch messed with the tapes. And everything they showed on the tapes didn't actually happen the way it was showed on the tapes. Other than possibly the murders of the people in the crew, but that could also be, even though they had the memory, so there's that, but take that out. If you take out the murdered tour group and still keep this stuff in, where it appears to be one way or another, like it appears to be one way on the film, but on the cameras, but not what we've seen. There's a line that even says, film cameras don't lie, film does. So basically, we're saying everything basically, what it's trying to say is everything we see on the camera is true, but everything we've seen so far in the film was a lie. And I don't like that. I choose to believe that what's on the camera footage being shown to our characters at the end of the film is bullshit constructed by the Blair Witch. We've seen spirits in movies too before. The Ring, which admittedly just came before. But I'm just saying, it's not a long, it's not a long drive to say, hey, you think, hey, they met, the Blair Witch did a voodoo and messed with the tapes. Otherwise, how do they see two different, even some of the stuff that they saw. Even they had the stuff where Eric is dancing naked. So how do I explain? So if the footage of them murdering the people is on there, right? Because they show that in the background they're playing the tape where they're naked and they got the weapons and stuff. So clearly that footage is on the tapes. Well, if that's on the tapes, then the stuff has to be on the tapes too, right? Because that was part of the murder stuff. And it clearly shows that Erica was part of the murder thing. So how do they explain that after committing the murders they decide to kill Erica and then hang Tristan? They could think of some bullshit saying, oh, they were going to go to the cops and say that, and confess. And they killed them for it. But they even say that one woman was hung and the other one's cause of death has yet to be determined. How do they explain that? They can't figure out her cause of death. Which means they found no discernible marks on her body, strangulation or otherwise, how she died. There's a lot of hoodoo stuff going on, they show, when Kim comes back from the liquor store and she's talking to Jeff about, oh, I had an accident, busted up your fender a little bit. and then like the chair spins around, and she sees Jeff in like electricity, be electrocuted, but like if you're on death row, which could be their future if they went to do the death penalty. Which I don't know if 2000 had the death penalty still, but in Maryland, I don't know. But just, and then he's like, coffee. Which means he was barely awake. The next morning, when they show that the van is going to be completely destroyed, he's like, Kim, what the fuck? You said you only had a fender bender. How the hell did you hear that? You were out of it. There's no way you heard her say there was a fender bender. You were out of it. You didn't even look at her. When they first showed him, he was knocked the fuck out. There is no way you heard her say that. No way. I remember when I first watched this and he said that, I'm like, how did he even hear her? He was out. I understand you can hear when you're asleep, but the fact that he clearly says, you said you just bumped the fender a little, and this thing is completely destroyed, which makes no fucking sense. Like, and they don't even show that in the footage of how that could have happened. That's the one thing besides something I'm going to talk about in a minute, that doesn't make any sense with the footage they're presenting us at the end. How did it get destroyed? One little bump into a tree wouldn't have done that, and she wouldn't have been able to drive that thing home as trashed as it was. What's the other thing that doesn't make any sense? Well, when I was watching the Nostalgia Critic has a review on this for his channel Oz. And when I first watched it, he says, there is no Book of Shadows. And I went, well, son of a bitch. He's right. There's no Book of Shadows. Why the hell is it called Book of Shadows? Apparently that was mandated by the studio to call it Book of Shadows, despite the fact there is no Book of Shadows. I really want to see director's cut of this, so I can get the full vision of what it was. I like this film, and there's some lines, mostly delivered by Jeffrey Donovan, that I really like. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7. Because there's things about this movie I like, but there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense and kind of contradicts things if you think about it. So it's going to get a 7. So what are your thoughts on Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2? Let me know in the comment below. Like, share, and subscribe. She's the witch, man!